All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Vito. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. For the students in Fairfax City, we're very humble, grateful that Vito Lo Re accepted our invitation to the show. Vito, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Claudio. It's a pleasure to meet you, even if virtually. It's a quite pleasure for me.
Same here. Let's go back to the last 2 years have been very, very difficult. With the COVID, some people believe in the vaccine, some people don't believe, whatever it is. In Italy, a lot of people died in the beginning. It was very difficult. Here in the United States, over 1 million people die with the COVID. How COVID affected you, your family, your life, your sanity? How you hold it up, man?
So first of all, we had this strange privilege of being the very first to fight with the virus. So actually, it was a privilege that probably most people would have prefer not being referred to, but it was this way. So how it affected my life? I always think that. In every situation we can find an opportunity, even the more difficult, and even if from a business point of view it was an incredible failure, because all the shootings for movies and series and whatever else were stopped, and many shows or many series and movies were cancelled. And actually, I lost one series and one movie because of the COVID. And so, what did I do? First of all, I did one thing that it's very, very rare in my profession, and generally maybe in nowadays life. That's it's stopping. To stop your life and say, okay. Because we're always running all day long. We have many projects we are working with, and many of them start when the other one is not yet finished, not yet over, and so on. So I think that I took advantage of this situation for asking myself, is everything as I would like it to be? I mean, I'm doing the thing that I wanted to do 5 or 10 years ago, and if I'm doing those things, am I doing in the way that I thought that I would done? It's something very, very strange. So I took this period made of 3 months for the first period where we were closed up in our homes, and it was really impossible even going outside to take your dog to the park or to have some shopping. And so I tried to stop and try to think and try to make to understand the value of the thing that I was doing, and to ask to myself if there was something that could be that could have done better, in a better way, or in a different way, or in a total different way, or maybe not doing that thing no more. So that was absolutely, let's say, useful. But you see, I'm a terrific optimistic man, and so I always try to get the good side in each situation. And then was also the opportunity to write some music only for my pleasure, or only for my personal research, because you see it's we have to manage many times in a year with different projects, so very different, especially in my case, since I work in so many different musical fields, in short movies, in feature film movies, in TV shows, radio, songs, musical, classical music. I've been working as a conductor and as an opera conductor for many years. I'm an arranger and an orchestrator, and so many different things. And so it's very rare for us, and for me especially, to stop and say, okay, now I'm writing now this piece of music only for my pleasure or only for my personal musical research. And so that's what I did. And the last thing that I did, I used to, as probably everybody in the world did, I used to have some conversation like we are doing right now with some other composers, and that was streamed live in my Facebook and in my YouTube channel. And it was a good opportunity to speak with the composer. Of course, it was a dialogue that was made, let's say, for the public, for the audience. But especially it was very useful to me because I realized that even if I knew this composer from a very long time, it's very rare for us to sit down and speak of business, of music, or our projects, our ideas, our limits, our whatever. Okay, so it was very, very, very useful, and so I started with this interviews in a channel, in a Facebook page that is called Le Colonne d'Ercole. And after in the second part, let's say after 7-8 months of complete stop, so no more interviews, no more conversation, because the business was again active. Let's say after this period of stop, I started again some month ago to do a different project on the same page, Le Colonne d'Ercole, which actually in every time I analyze a musical soundtrack for many famous movies. I did Aliens, Basic Instinct, Lawrence of Arabia, and
Wow.
the Exorcist, and now I'm preparing one for Deep Red, Profondo Rosso by Dario Argento, and so many other soundtracks. So that's the way I used the COVID period, actually.
Good for you. For me, I was like you. I was going very fast in my life. I do a lot of different things. I do some teaching, and I own a company, and I work for a company, and like music. So I was going very fast. So the COVID made me slow down, see what was important for me and my family, and then I got rid of a lot of stuff that weren't necessary. So I feel very bad that so many people here died in the United States, but the best thing that happened to me was the COVID, because allowed me to work from home. I opened one radio, then I opened another radio. I sent the link to our friends, and I thought, well, I really like music. I've been listening to music for many, many years, hours a day, from jazz, from rock, from film, scoring, soundtrack, and everything, opera and classical music, and I thought, well, musicians are not worrying with the COVID. Everybody must be at home, so I start calling people and sending emails. So little by little, at the beginning, it was very difficult.
No one was traveling. Oh, sorry, I can't answer you. I'm traveling. No, you're not.
You're not. Yeah. So little by little, people start getting back to me, and I did a lot at the beginning. I was interview with people from the electronic music world, like Klaus Schulze type and Tangerine Dreams and all these great musicians, and I got lucky, and now I have done, I don't know, 250 or something more, and I try to do like 3 or 4 a week, and now people, I used to send an email, now people are emailing me because they see the interview what I did with Italian composers, electronic music, the people from Camel, from Gone, from Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and so on and so forth. That now I'm getting email. People wanna, hey, do you have time? Can we do an interview? And so on and so forth. So it have been healing. And there is an expression here in the United States called to smell the roses, meaning that you're going too fast, that you didn't even smell the rose, how beautiful it is, how beautiful the world is, and
Yes, it is.
it was crazy. So so in that sense, I'm lucky. Were you born like in a musical family? I mean, how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lesson or guitar lesson or?
Well, it's a strange situation when music in my family, because my grandfather was actually had my own name, or maybe I got his own name. Was a very important trumpet player in the 20s and in the 30s of the last century. He died when I was 4 years old, so actually I never met him. But even if he was such a strong musician, who performed all over the world and in the most important theaters in the world, he had four sons, but no one of them actually studied music. But the next generation, so his grandsons, they almost all of them at least study music. And actually, I have three cousins who are professional musicians. So music has always been a very deep into my family. So I've been raised listening, especially from classical musical to opera from my mother's side, and jazz from my father's side. Beside that being said, I didn't start to study music very very young, even if I grew up into music. I don't know why, because when I was a child, don't ask me why I thought that I was not interested in music, and I was even not enough talent to do music. Don't ask me why. I don't know how this thought went into my mind, but it was like this. So actually, I started studying music only when I was a boy in high school, actually. So I started with classical guitar. And the funny thing is that even after a few days that I got the guitar in my hands, I immediately felt the need to write something. Okay, even something very very simple, something very even childish maybe, but this was like an instinct that I immediately had. That's why after a few years studying classical guitar, I decided to take lessons of compositions too, and which I did. And after that, I take lessons of orchestra conducting, and I started composing, especially for theater shows when I was 19 years old, actually 18, 19 years old, and that was the beginning of my actually composer career. But since music is a strange world, that it happened to me that for about 12 years I did not compose because I was actually only an orchestra conductor. I traveled all around the world, playing especially opera, but also symphonic and classical music in general, sacred music, and so on. But for 12 years, I did only a career as a conductor. And then I started again to compose after about 10 years, which actually it's a very long time, and I'm aware of it. But I don't know when. Sorry, I don't know how. I mean, that I get a commission to write a piece of music, and music was flowing from my fingers in a very natural way. So I said to myself, maybe I can take compositions back into my life, and that's what I did. And actually, nowadays, I always sometimes say conduct, but mainly I conduct my own music when I record with the orchestra. But actually today I'm mainly a composer, and my conductor career is some part of my past life.
Good for you. Good for you. There are in Italy. There's so many. Yeah, of course, everybody knows Ennio Morricone. Of course, he was very, or Dario Argento, um, the director. But there are so many great musicians, so many film composers in Italy. So how there are a couple. There's many schools that people can study, like film scoring, or they need to take the path from classical music into film score, or they are a specialized school that people can.
Well, that's interesting. It depends. I mean, there are actually, let's say that until 10, 15 years ago, there was no actual music schools, especially for film music. So what the composer did actually was doing study composition at the Conservatory as I did, and after that they used to to work as the movie composers. Now there is a new generation of composer who did not study classical music, not classical composition. They have more modern background, and some of them come from jazz or from pop music, and I think that it's interesting seeing how composers are very different. I mean, I work. Sorry, not the work, but I am in a society called ACMF, which is a society for composer of film music in Italy. And the honorary president used to be Ennio Morricone, and now is Nicola Piovani. And we are about 100 and something composer in this society, with all these different backgrounds. And several times we have some meetings to have some exchange, to share experiences, and to share our different backgrounds. But in the last years, there are so many musical schools, especially even conservatories, are introducing especially film music courses. And I know many teachers in several music schools. And beside them, there is also some places like il Centro Sperimentale di Cinematografia in Rome, which is actually the main cinema school in Italy. The historical, all the directors came from that, which is actually a school specialized in film making, not in music. But in the last years, they organized so many master classes and so many panels, especially on film music. And about once a year, they invite me to get a master class with these young students. And each time I see in front of me 30, 45, 50 musicians, young musicians, willing to do the job. And they always ask how to do the job, and which are the problems, how the markets today. I always try to be very honest with them. I don't want. I want they have a real image of what's the situation nowadays, which is actually it's tough. I mean, I'm part of that. There are the historical generation made of Morricone, made by Piovani, Stelvio Cipriani, Rizzo Ortolani, which actually was the golden era of film music. Then there is a second generation which was able again to smell what was the golden era. There is a third generation, which is actually mine, and we always had the last part of that smell, and now that there is the next generation which actually does not smell anymore, nothing. And I always try to be very honest with these guys. I always say, I'm not saying you can't do this work. Absolutely, it's not what I'm saying. Otherwise, it would be useless being here today. But I always want they to be aware of that it's a tough market. It's a different market, especially if you think that you can do this job in 2022. In the same way like you used to do in the 70s or in the 80s of the last century. The market is completely different. And so it's useless staying crying, saying, oh, there's not the market, or there's no more golden era, there are no more the same project. Because, for example, I do a fact that could be interesting. In the 70s, in Italy, they produced about 350, 380 movies a year. So let's say more than one movie per day, actually. And the composer were how many? 30, 20, 30. If you divide the number of music by the number of composers, you understand why Ennio Morricone in 72, I guess, wrote 22 soundtracks in 1 year, which is totally crazy. Or even Stelvio Cipriani, so he's in the 70s he used to compose 10 or 15 or 20 soundtracks in 1 year. Nowadays in Italy we produce about 100 something, let's say 130 movies, and I don't know how many composers are there are in Italy, but only in ACMF, in the composer society I told you before, we are 130 or something like that. Okay, so compare the number of the movies that used to be shot in the 70s to today, and compare the number of musicians with the number and number of composers today. It's so different, and also there's also one problem more, which is when I say that only 130 movies are produced per year in Italy. We got to understand what produced means, because a part of these 130 movies are produced but never distributed.
Really?
So yes, so they are produced. They are okay. Guys, the movie is over. No one will never see that movie, because it's hard to explain how it works and why this happened, but it happened. And so that's why the composer like me, who are involved in huge productions, in feature movies and so on, I think that I got some privilege. Okay. And for the next generation, it's really hard. That's why I always say to these guys, if you have the opportunity, go to study or to work elsewhere, because if I would have if I would be 20 or 25 years old, I would leave for maybe for America or for UK or Australia or Canada or any other place. But in my situation, it's okay like this. I work with important project, with important movies, and actually I did achieve the goal that I was in my mind when I was a boy, to live with this job. And so actually I can't complain, and I won't. But this, it's, also the new platforms, just like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple TV, Sky, Disney Plus, Paramount, and whatever. It's a different way of doing movies. It's a different way to distribute these movies. So it's a completely different market, especially from the copyrights point of view, which is actually in America you do not have copyrights because the composer got a buyout, so he's paid more money right here, right now, and he takes no money after the performances. In Italy and generally in Europe, it's different. We got a less fee as a composer, but we get copyrights for the whole life of a movie. So if a movie is being distributed anywhere for 20 years or 30 years, you got money for 20 years or 30 years. Even if maybe in the very beginning you did not have a huge fee, a huge composer fee. So that's why it's a market that completely changed. So I think that we got to be aware of what the changes are.
Yeah, you've been that's great. You have been an opera conductor since '97, and you've been conducted opera in 30 opera in a lot of different countries: Canada, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Romania, Ukraine. Any particular all these theaters, any particular place that you say, man, I wish I could live there and come back every year during the summer to do an opera? Is any place in particular?
Oh yes, several places in Prague, in Czech Republic, in Kazakhstan. That they had an opera house which was really incredible. In Canada, even if we say, and actually it's like this, that Italy is the cradle of opera, and actually it is. But there are so many countries which love opera, and it's a pleasure going to conduct their orchestra in their theaters.
Yeah, I remember seeing, listening to La Traviata. And a lot of stuff from Giuseppe Verdi. When I was a little boy, my dad used to play the stuff. My dad in Chile had a lot of music, floors. So I listened to a lot of stuff when I was a real baby, and jazz and rock and tango from Argentina, opera. So it was amazing. And of course, I didn't like that kind of music that my dad would play, but when I was 14 years old, I bought my first record, my first vinyl, and I knew that I liked music, and I liked rock and roll, like Genesis, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and all that stuff. Then I discovered electronic music, and then around when I was 21, when I came here, I developed an interest in electronic music, and then I started studying soundtrack and a film score, and I, as I mentioned before, I have a wide range of stuff that I like. Music is, for me, it's like it has.
You're an open-minded listener, actually.
Well, because I as I say, I'm comfortable seeing La Traviata. I was listening to Mozart and Bach last night, and I see here where I live in Washington, close to 50 shows a year. I go everywhere, and in all stuff from Peter Gabriel, Pink Floyd, Depeche Mode, Pat Benatar, Blondie, soundtrack, Coldplay, blah blah blah.
It's actually the same for me, and I always say there are only two kinds of music: the music that make you feel something, and the music that can't. So that's right. that's the only difference between music. Sometimes You can listen to a folk song made of 3 chords, which is able to send you feelings, to send emotions, and you can listen to an incredible, difficult symphonic piece made of 120 pieces orchestra, and say you nothing actually. So that's it's very subjective.
Absolutely, and sometimes I had bought a lot of. I'm going to Spotify and other places. I listen to a lot of music from soundtracks that I never seen the movie. I probably will never see the movie. And some, crazy horror movies, but maybe the movie is not that great, but the music is unbelievable. And I'm able to differentiate between a great movie with a bad soundtrack versus a crazy movie with an excellent soundtrack. And,
yes,
and
you see, I saw an interview that you did with my friend Christian Cincini some time ago, and he used to say there's no very big, beautiful film without a beautiful soundtrack, but there are some bad films with excellent soundtrack, and it's definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't like horror movies or, I don't know, Dario Argento or Suspiria and all that kind of stuff, crazy movies. But the music, because I like electronic music, listen to Claudio Simonetti or Goblin and horror movie. The music is very good, and I perhaps I will never see the movie, but I put my headphone, I get a glass of wine or a beer or whatever on a Friday or Saturday, and music take me places. It's like magic for me. I don't know how to explain it, but music has given me so much satisfaction. I wish I was like a politician, and I will talk to Putin, and I will give him 10 records, and I will drink coffee with the guy and say, listen to stuff.
And call the army back. And call the army back.
He will convince him to stop the war and do other stuff. Music, I think really music can save the world. I don't know. They're my modest opinion. And do you think when you recording when you are approached by the new director, do you prefer to see the kind of finished script from the book, the script pre-production, and then you take sound and you say images, or you can envision what the director would like to see as a film score, but just reading the script, or is in between?
You see, reading the script can be very useful, but also very dangerous. Because when you read a script, it's automatically in your mind you make some images of what you're reading. Yeah. I think it's normal, probably for a common reader, and it's absolutely normal for a composer. You're reading, oh, this happened like the guys, they blah blah blah, and you got the image in your mind, and so automatically you put some music into that image that you got in your mind. Mm-hmm. The point is that when you see the realization of the script, can be very, very, very different of what you had in your mind. So that's why I say that can be useful, but can also be very, very dangerous, because you could. I think one of the thing that I always say, it's very dangerous in this job to fall in love with your ideas. Because, for example, you're running a theme for a scene or for a movie, and you definitely like that theme. It's perfect, and that means being that you fell in love with what you wrote, and that's a danger. That's a danger because this is a kind of business where you must be prepared to give up everything of what you wrote. Because I always say that before I said that there are only two kinds of music: the one that can give you some emotions and the one that can't. But in film music, there are only two kinds of music: the music that the director likes, the music the director doesn't like. So that's why if you are too much convinced of what you wrote, it's possible that you are in the editing room with the editor and with the director, and you are enthusiastic for your job, and you look at their faces, and they look each other, and you got that you did not achieve what they expected from you. So actually, what I prefer actually is always looking at the final edited movie, because it takes less risk, even if you have less time. But it's normal in this job that you always have a very short time, because actually, since the composer is the last who comes in the creation of a movie, especially many times when the composer comes, there are a date of release has been decided, and so if you have 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and let's say the 5-6 weeks is an average time for composing a complete soundtrack. But sometimes there are some delays, so you should have started yesterday, and while you start to compose maybe in 2 weeks, and this means that 2 weeks are lost. So instead of 6 weeks, you will have 4 weeks. Wow. Because the date of release is set, and when the date is release set, the production can't say, okay, let's postpone 2 weeks more. Who cares? Because each date of release is made by calculation, by marketing, by many different reasons, and also it's quite a risk doing this job, and that's why so many composers got rejected scores. Because sometimes when you shot the movie, the music is shot. You can do anything else. Maybe you can do some different editing, yes. But if the movie is shot in a certain way, you cannot call back the cast and the crew and say, "Okay, guys, sorry, we got to shoot it again." It's impossible. When it's done, it's done. And so what happens? That sometimes the composer is the guy to blame if something doesn't work in the movie, and so now it doesn't work because the music is bad. Maybe it doesn't work because it doesn't work. Yeah. And but since when it's shot, the only thing that the producer or director can say is changing the composer. So they're going to call another composer instead of those 4 weeks. Probably they got 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Several times, some composer I remember many movie soundtracks made by Jerry Goldsmith, or even some from Ennio Morricone. They do a movie soundtracks in a few days, in 6, 7, 8 days, full soundtracks, which is actually, even James Newton Howard. I remember with the King Kong movie, it was called, and he got only 2 weeks for doing a full orchestral, or I think 80 minutes orchestral score in 2 weeks. So it's very, very, very tough.
Wow, it's very difficult. And so, let's say they hired me at the beginning. I did a soundtrack. The director doesn't like it, and then they handed Vito Lo Re after me. What's happened with the rejected score? Where it goes?
It depends. Depends who own the rights. I mean, in Italy, since we don't have a buyout, the music belongs to the composer. So definitely the composer whose score has been rejected can decide if he wants to put that music in another movie, or to take somewhere in his own archive, or maybe sometimes some composers do a musical piece made of the rejected scores, and so maybe sometimes they also publish and record, or maybe sometimes they got already the recording because it was recording before the score was rejected, and so they publish the rejected score of the movie X. And while in America it's different, because since the composer does a buyout of his own music, so actually the music does not belong to him no more, belongs to the production. And so in many times there's the gentleman agreement between the production and the composer, and the production say, okay, take back your music and do whatever you want with it. But sometimes, especially if there have been, a hard relation, and they part in a tough way, in a hard way.